The carbon cycle. So earlier in a lesson, we spoke of the water cycle where the water is moving throughout the earth. It goes up, it goes down, it changes states of matter, solid, liquid, gas. Carbon is very similar. It also goes in different parts of the earth and it's being recycled all the time. So let's look at the carbon cycle. What is matter? Matter is anything that has mass and takes up space. And let's look at the word mass. Mass is really how we measure the amount of matter that's in something. Mass is really not the same thing as weight. However, a lot of people mix up the two because they sound a lot alike in science when we measure stuff. The way we determine how much mass is in something is we weigh it on a scale. So for the purpose of this lesson, you can think of mass as weight, although technically it's not weight, but we determine the amount of mass by the weight. And also it says here it matters anything that has mass, or you could say weight, and takes up space. Now, the amount of space something takes up is called the volume, volume. So if we were to measure length times width times height of a square or a rectangle, you would determine how much space it takes up. So matter is anything that has mass and takes up space. So your pencil, of course, takes up space. It does have a little mass. The desk that you use in school also has mass. It takes up space. And humans, we also have mass and we take up space. So we all have matter. The law of conservation of matter says that matter is not created or destroyed. So let me give you an example. If we had, let's say, a piece of wood that weighed 10 pounds, and we were to burn it, and after we burn it, the ashes only weigh 1 pound. You did not destroy 9 pounds. What happens is 9 pounds of the matter left and went into the atmosphere as a gas. But if you were to collect all that gas and put it back on the scale with the ashes, it would still weigh 10 pounds. You did not destroy it. Matter cannot be destroyed. It is not created. It can only be rearranged or recycled. The carbon cycle is a complex series of processes in which all carbon atoms in the world recycle. So let's look at the trees on the far right hand side. Notice that we have arrows going to the tree. That's because trees and all plants go through photosynthesis. In photosynthesis, carbon dioxide is taken out of the air and it goes into the tree or the plant, and the plant or the tree will take that carbon and make glucose, C6H12O6. It's the sugar. Notice that we also have arrows going out of the tree. That's because trees also go through cellular respiration. Cellular respiration is the process of making ATP, making energy. The trees make energy just like we do. They don't need as much, but they do need energy. And if you'll also notice that we have more arrows going into the tree than what's coming out. That's because they take out of the atmosphere more carbon dioxide than they release into the atmosphere. If you look at the raccoon here, we have lines going away from him because the raccoon is going through cellular respiration just like the tree. But the raccoon does not go through photosynthesis, so therefore no arrows are going into him. He only puts carbon dioxide into the air. He doesn't take any of it out of the air. If you look at the little truck on the far left-hand side, arrows are going away from that. That's because the truck is burning fossil fuel, and fossil fuel also puts carbon dioxide into the air. But if you'll notice, there's no arrows going into the truck because the truck is not going through photosynthesis. Only the plants go through the photosynthesis and some protists and some bacteria called photosynthetic bacteria. Notice we also have carbon in the soil. That's because when things die, the carbon can be recycled back into the soil. Carbon is important because all life on Earth is based on carbon. If you see there are C6, that's the atomic symbol is C, and it has 6 protons, which is why you have the 6 there. If you look at the next picture over, it says phospholipids. All of our cell membranes have a layer of fat going around it called a phospholipid. In fact, not only is it one layer, but it's actually two layers of these phospholipids in our cell membranes. We call it phospholipid bilayer, bi meaning two layers. And you can see it in the third picture here with a little circle that's been opened. Those are phospholipids that you see. And of course, on the right hand side is an example of cells. Those are some blood cells. But phospholipid bilayer. So all life is based on carbon. We have a theory in science that if we ever find life on another planet, it must be made of carbon. We could be proven wrong, but that's the theory that we currently have in science. All life is based on carbon because all of the life that we've ever seen is based on carbon. Carbon is found in the atmosphere, in the oceans. It's also in the ground. In the oceans, we have carbon dioxide that's dissolved into the water. We call it dissolved carbon dioxide. And unfortunately, the oceans are absorbing extra carbon dioxide right now because carbon dioxide levels in the world are increasing. This carbon dioxide in the water is literally turning our oceans into carbonic acid, which is not a good thing. Also, if you'll see again, the tractor is burning fossil fuel, which is putting carbon dioxide into the air. The raccoon is going through cellular respiration, giving off carbon dioxide, putting it into the air. Some of it, of course, goes to the water we talked about. So a lot of carbon here is being recycled. Photosynthesis is something that plants go through, and of course, trees are in the plant kingdom. We also have photosynthetic bacteria that has chlorophyll that go through it. Some protists act like plants and they go through it. But photosynthesis is basically taking carbon dioxide out of the air and in this case with plants, which is what's on the picture here, we can make glucose out of it, C6H12O6. So the plants are literally making glucose. So the plants breathe in carbon dioxide and breathe out oxygen. So they're putting oxygen to the air, but they're also giving off carbon dioxide into the air as well because they go through cellular respiration. But in particular here, when we talk about photosynthesis, carbon dioxide goes in, oxygen goes out. Now the trees, again, the plants are also going through cellular respiration. In that case, oxygen goes in, carbon dioxide goes out. But as we said earlier, plants go through more carbon dioxide going into them than they do coming out. Both plants and animals release carbon dioxide into the air through cellular respiration. Cellular respiration is a complex series that we go through to make ATP, to make energy. And trees need energy, plants need energy, we humans need energy, the raccoon, all animals need energy. In fact, all living things need energy. So all living things go through cellular respiration. And when we go through cellular respiration, we give off carbon dioxide. So all living things are giving off carbon dioxide. So we breathe in oxygen, we give off carbon dioxide. Cellular respiration, again, making energy and giving off carbon dioxide. So if you look at the air going around in the circle, when carbon dioxide goes in and oxygen comes out, it's called photosynthesis. When oxygen goes in and carbon dioxide goes out, it's called cellular respiration. Plants go through both processes, photosynthesis and cell respiration. Animals only go through cellular respiration. So we humans are in the animal kingdom. We would only do that bottom part there. We take in oxygen and we give off carbon dioxide. But again, plants do both of those. Decaying plants and animals and waste decompose after a long period of time and they turn into fossil fuel. So if you look in the picture, when the raccoon dies, the carbon will be recycled. The bacteria will break it down, and some of the carbon will be released into the air, and some of the carbon will go into the soil, and it can be used by plants. Later on, another plant could come from it. But so the carbon is recycled. But in particular, I want to talk about the fossil fuels. So when the carbon breaks down from the animal and goes into the soil, over time, you could turn it into fossil fuel, which is why when we take the fossil fuel out of the ground and we burn it, we put carbon dioxide back into the air. Carbon dioxide is generally not a problem when it's in the ground. The problem is when we take it out of the ground and burn it and put it back into the atmosphere, that's when it causes possible global warming. A lot of scientists are believing that we have global warming taking place. Some scientists do not. But the whole theory around it revolves around carbon dioxide. The more carbon dioxide we put into the air, the harder it is for the heat to to escape the Earth. The heat kind of gets trapped on the Earth, and the Earth gets a little bit hotter. So, what is the human impact on the carbon cycle? Well, we burn a lot of fossil fuel. Some countries burn it more than others. Here in the United States, we burn a lot of fossil fuel. So, we humans are responsible for putting a lot of carbon into the atmosphere. Question number one: how does burning fossil fuel change the carbon cycle? Well, again, the more fossil fuel we burn, the more carbon dioxide is released into the air because we took it out of the ground as fossil fuel and then we burn it and put it as a gas form back into the air. And that gas form, the carbon dioxide releases, it goes up and it kind of traps the heat of the earth and could potentially make the planet a lot hotter. So, what parts of the earth have been absorbing the extra carbon? Well, that's actually two things that are happening here. One of the things are plants and trees. Plants and trees are taking in more carbon dioxide. They're going through a little bit more photosynthesis. So they are helping to get rid of the carbon dioxide for us. So by us humans burning more fossil fuels, an easy way to get the carbon dioxide out of the air, probably the quickest and cheapest way, is to plant more trees or plant flowers and grass. And let's get the carbon dioxide back out of the air through photosynthesis. Unfortunately, the oceans are also absorbing the extra carbon dioxide because the two thirds of the planet is basically covered with ocean water, and the wind blows and the air has carbon dioxide in it. The carbon dioxide sticks to the water, it goes inside, becomes dissolved carbon dioxide. The oceans are becoming more acidic. We call it ocean acidification. So, and we will have long term effects from that if that continues. Number three, how does the disruption of the carbon cycle impact the environment? As we said earlier, if we continue to burn a lot of fossil fuels and carbon dioxide gets into the air, it makes it harder for the heat to escape the atmosphere, and the Earth is kind of absorbing the heat. Possible global warming. Number four, what is the U.S. trying to do about it? Well, we are trying to go to an alternative energy source that doesn't give off carbon dioxide. We have one chapter we talk about solar energy and hydroelectrical power and nuclear power, and so we have wind power. We have a lot of alternative forms of energy that we're trying to develop and use and make it a little bit cheaper. We're still working on that. So I'm gonna let you pause the video here so you can read all of that.